Satoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today's session we are going to study the theory of ethics, which is important for you to judge your actions, to know the right and wrong of an action. Do you know the definition of ethics? Ethics is the study of the criterion of morality, a study of the standard of morality. So, because moral standards differ from culture to culture, is there a universal standard? This is what ethics is going to study. This is what ethics is going to tell us today. So, we will be studying the theories of ethics. Briefly, we will be studying, and as it applies to our purposes, Karma Yoga. Now, okay. So, let me first give you a summary of what ethical theories are about. Broadly speaking, there are two types of ethical theories. One is called the consequentialist theory, other one is the non-consequentialist theory. Consequence means you know the meaning, isn't it? What is the consequence of something, the end of something, the final effect of something. So, consequentialist theories are those which tell you the ethics is based on the consequence or the end to be achieved by the action. If the end is good, if it is useful to humankind, if it is giving you happiness, well-being, pleasure, then the action is justified. This is what the consequential theories will tell you. Okay, so it depends on the end to be achieved. So, usually the end is taken to be happiness, utility, pleasure, these are the ends. So, accordingly you have consequentialist theories, and these theories you will find everywhere in every culture, and even in Indian culture, you know, Charvak philosophy was based on this kind, that the end justifies the means. If the end is acceptable enough, then the means, any means is all right. You know, there was this famous saying with the Charvaks, Yavat jivet sukham jivet, rinam kritva ghritam pibet. You have heard of it? This is the philosophy of materialists. Live well, even if you have to go into debt, but you must have ghee. That is the meaning. So, the end justifies the means in these theories. And then the second type of theory, ethical theory, is non-consequentialist theory, which means no, the end should not justify the means. The consequence should not matter. It is duty which matters. Ethics based on duty fulfilled by the action is non-consequentialist theory. Now, you pay a little attention to this and see what they are trying to mean by that. You see, we have a feeling of ought to, I ought to do this, this ought to be done, this is something which I cannot let go. We have this kind of a moral obligation within us, which always directs us to something which we feel we have to do. When there is a wrong action, something within us tells us, no, you can't do this. Isn't it? Popularly call it the conscience. But this ought to feeling is very strong in human beings, and this is what Kant called the categorical imperative, inner categorical imperative, which means there is an inner command which tells me what I ought to do, what I ought not to do. So, this is an ethical system based on this. Are you getting the point? So, it is duty based, not consequence, not end based, not the result based. Now, many of the popular theories of ethics are non-consequentialist. It depends on your duty, what the action you are going to generate is going to depend on your duty, the rightness or wrongness of that action. You see, for a soldier, killing is a right action. Killing as such, violence may be wrong, but for a soldier, that is his duty. So, the action is justified. So, this kind of a theory is, this is called deontological theory. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, the Arjun is a warrior and he is being urged to fight, isn't it? Why is he being urged to fight? Because his dharma is that of a soldier, of a warrior. He has to protect the people. So, the action is justified, which means action based on duty is what is seen in this branch of ethics. It is not based on consequence. It is not consequential. So, many of the philosophers, even Yoga Vedanta thinkers like Prabhakara, all of them subscribe to this deontological view, theory of ethics. आप सोच के देखो, बहुत interesting है. If you actually think what they are trying to say, it is very interesting. How do you judge the rightness or wrongness of an action? The third group of theories are called virtue ethics, which means it is based on the character of persons or the ethos of a particular community. And virtue ethics, popularly you can say, like at the time of the Smritis, Ram Rajya was a great thing, isn't it? A certain set of virtues which characterize the Ram Rajya. It is based on the virtue of a particular person, the ethos of a particular that Suryavamshi family. है ना, आपने सुना होगा ये. तो वो क्या कहते थे? Their famous उनका नारा motto was प्राण जाए पर वचन ना जाए, है ना? So that is why the whole Ramayana has been like that. Certain very strong ethical values, very strong things fixed, and then that creates value ethics, I mean virtue ethics. These virtues are sort of part and parcel of either the person or the community. So they may be just ethnic, they may be part of a nation state, but these virtue ethics, everything falls into this. It is based on virtue. Now for each of these theories, there are for and against views. Let me show it to you on a slide. You see, these are the popular traditional ethical theories. Consequentialist, non-consequentialist, just now I explained to you. Consequentialist theories are based on utility, so utilitarianism, just ego it can be based on, and hedonism, pleasure. Does it get you all of this? Then, well, the action is justified. So the consequence is what decides the goodness, rightness or wrongness of an action. Non-consequentialist theories are deontology and the agent's virtue. Now, just go through what I have put underneath. Consequentialist theories are those based on consequences of an action. They are also called teleological theories. Here the standard of morality is determined by the end, which may be just pleasure or happiness or utility. Non-consequentialist theories are based on the sense of moral obligation or duty. Here the standard of morality is based on duty, moral obligation in any particular context, or that inner categorical imperative which I told you. Many ethical theories fall under this second group, deontological theories they are called. Then let me give you a summary of the 4 types of ethical theories. Just watch this slide. Consequence based. What are the advantages of this? It stresses promotion of happiness and utility. It ignores concerns of justice for the minority population. Not just that, if you say the end justifies the means, then the means can be anything. So the rightness or wrongness of the means also comes into consideration. That is why many popular theories do not fall under this group. Duty based theories, that is deontological theories, the advantages are it stresses the role of duty and respect for persons. Disadvantages is underestimates the importance of happiness and social utility. This is the popular notion, but ultimately you will see deontological theories have a very, very solid stand. Because whatever is duty based is always more reliable, isn't it? Or is it just pleasure based? हमारा जो श्रेयस प्रेयस distinction we made in one of the classes. Shreyas is, what is it based upon? Duty and the goodness it brings into your life, long term satisfaction it brings, while prayers is based upon just short term satisfaction or pleasure. So understand, deontological theories are important. Then this is contract based theory, is another type of theory. It provides a motivation for morality but offers a minimum morality. That is the problem, because it is contract based, rights, right based. And then there is character based, or what are called virtue ethics, which we discussed just now. Stresses moral development and value and moral education, and depends on the homogeneous standards of morality of a community standards for morality, a person or a community. So these are broadly the types of ethical theories available to us. Now, as I told you, each one has its advantages, disadvantages, for, against views, opposition, contradiction, all this is there. But further on, I would like to point out the justification problem. What justifies a particular theory? See, some idea you must have of all of this. It is called the meta-ethical problem, which means each theory, how does it justify itself? Look at the deontological theory here. There is the question of how to justify its claims that certain moral rules are the correct ones. When you say it is duty based, how do you know what should be my duty? What I have chosen is my duty? What should be our concept of duty? It is based on that. Then utilitarianism, or what was called consequentialist theory. How to justify its claim that the only thing that really matters morally is consequences for happiness or well-being. Again, that happiness range, it stretches from what to what? Is it just what gives me pleasure? Should I go in for that? Or what gives pleasure to others? Or what is purely utilitarian in value? What should it be based upon? So, this is another justification problem for consequentialist theories. And virtue ethics, of course, the problem concerns the question of which character traits are called virtues. They differ from culture to culture. So, you see, everywhere there is the meta-ethical problem. Now, how will you decide the rightness or wrongness of an action? Besides this, there are very many more systems. I am just giving you an overview. There is a system called पता नहीं आपने सुना है care ethics. You see, care ethics, this is what it believes in. Rather than the starting point being rationally derived universal principles, ethics starts in caring relationships. It believes in that. Love, care, service, this should be the ethical standard. That's what they believe. Care ethics is the narrative of relationships that extend through time. If your morals are motivated by impersonal rules rather than personal affection, then you are morally impaired, they say. Feelings are the foundation and motivation for ethical behavior. They are not saying if it feels good, do it, but feelings are not to be followed blindly. So, there is an opposition towards this also. Take the last stand. You see, feelings must be schooled, developed and examined before we use them as the basis of moral behavior. Shaping the right sorts of feelings is a difficult, demanding process. So, this form of ethic also has its own conditions. You know, can you trust all of your feelings? You can't trust all of your feelings. So, certain level of discipline is required even in this form of ethics. Finally, you see, the world is comprised of relationships. So, viewing the moral world as a network, and self is defined through that connection. So, morality and responsibility involves restoring community wherever it is broken. So, this type of ethics believes in connecting with others, connecting through service, through love, through relationships, and the ethics works like this only. One who cannot connect is unethical according to this view. So, like this there are a number of theories of ethics. So, let us just keep ourselves to this for now. And once you have got an overview of ethics, now you must see for yourself in my life, in judging my actions, what is the type of theory which most applies to me. Now, see, for people like I told you, charvaks, purely materialists, they will say, well, obviously happiness is the standard, pleasure is the standard, whatever gives me immediate pleasure should be the standard. So, then it naturally comes to consequentialist theory, right? And there are people who will tell you, there are systems of thought, philosophers, there are cultures which will tell you, no, duty is above everything else, whether there is happiness or not in that duty, whether there is pleasure or not, whether there is utility or not, duty is above everything. है ना, भगवद गीता का मैसेज क्या है मेनली, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. The end does not justify the means, it should be duty based every action. So, that is the deontological stand. So, you take any kind of theory, it will fall under these slots. Now, we have to decide what to take up, but before we go into that, in our everyday life and experience, before we decide which action is right or wrong, good or bad, we will go a little into the scriptures, because what do the scriptures give us? General principles of morality, isn't it? General standards of morality. So they give us very solid ground for ethics, studying ethics, and that is why we will go a little bit into our scriptures to see what is it that they are prescribing, which of the theories to follow, which theory is valid, in our case which theory to use. Now for that, first let me go into the Vedas. Taittiriya Upanishad aapne suna hai? In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a convocatory address which the Guru is giving the disciples. When they are returning home, the students are returning home after completing their education, the Guru gives them a set of instructions in which he is telling them what they ought to do, what they should not do. They are prescriptive in nature, you can say, but very clearly defined ethics are there. You must have heard of it, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, Swadhyayan Ma Pramadaha, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. So many such instructions are there. Speak the truth and Satyam, Dharmam Chara, walk the path of righteousness, don't ignore your studies, don't ignore learning, Satyana Pramaditavyam, Dharmana Pramaditavyam, Kushalana Pramaditavyam, don't ignore any of this, neither truth nor righteousness nor Kushal, your welfare. Put your mind into things which will build your life. And again the Guru also tells the disciples, follow those actions which are ideal in us, and the rest of the actions judge for yourself. So they are not just prescriptions actually. He is asking the students to determine for themselves what is the right thing to do. So you see, he is pointing to certain definite ways of thinking, ways of judging, and judging the goodness of an action, the rightness or wrongness of an action. And this was something, you know how the Vedas were transmitted? The very word for Vedas is Shruti, which means you have to, they were transmitted by hearing, from teacher to student, through hearing. Those days there was no writing or such, or just something on barks of trees, but mainly they were transmitted by word of mouth, by hearing. So the disciple again transmits it to his disciple. This is how we have collected the entire Vedas right from the beginning. So these are the things which Taittiriya Upanishad, this kind of ethical theory is being given out to us. Another hymn is there in the Rig Veda, Sangachadvam Samvadadvam, you must have heard of it. You see, it tells you, if I go into the Sanskrit, you must know it in English, then you will be able to understand. Let us walk together, let us speak in harmony, let our minds apprehend alike, common be the end of your assembly, united be your thoughts, united be your hearts, let us be perfect in our unity. So what are they trying to tell us through all this? Be united, be of one will, one mind, and you will be successful collectively. So you see, they are pointing out to coordination, they are pointing to team spirit, team effort, collective effort. So many such things are there in the Vedas, right from the Vedas. How we should conduct ourselves, on an everyday basis, what should be the priorities in our life, how should our thinking be, and what is it that is to be sought in life. By knowing these things, क्या होता है, आपको खुद ही पता चलेगा what kind of actions are required in order to gain these things, isn't it? One more thing which I would like to point out here is, you see, every philosophical system gives its own ethical code, like in the Purva Mimamsa also. You find ordinances or commands based on Vedic injunctions. So again they are of this type, the same type which we discussed so far. Then you have the yoga system. In yoga तो you know अष्टांग योग आपने सुना है ना, पहले दो कदम क्या है अष्टांग योग के, यम और नियम, they are entirely ethical disciplines. Without that base, nobody can proceed to Ashtanga Yoga, towards the higher steps, because you know basically what is required to keep mental equilibrium is moral disciplines. Without these disciplines, the mind cannot be in control. If you ask a yogi, why should I be ethical at all, he will say that's the only way to control your mind, and that is why moral discipline is required. Otherwise the mind will function in such a way, you will be frightened of it yourself. So that is why the basic moral disciplines are required. आप ये समझ रहे हो ये theories क्यों important है आपके लिए? You must have a hold over this knowledge for you to understand yourself, so that when you are into action, you will pause and think in the middle of your actions. ये क्या मैं कर सकता हूँ? ये करना क्या योग्य है इस situation में? Is this my duty or not? Should I go this far or not? Should I do this or not? Unless you ponder over these questions, tomorrow you will be great decision makers for our nation and for the world. Unless you learn to pause and ponder before you take an action, your action, nobody can tell whether your action will be right or wrong. Dynamism का मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम plunge करें action में. You know, really dynamic people within themselves, they are very balanced. Definite energy is flowing in a definite direction. That is why it gets its force towards dynamicity. Within themselves, they are very organized. So it's very clear in their mind what they should do, how much they should do, what time they should do it, and what is required in that particular context. So that is why we are telling you something about ethical theories. A leader means basically this: he is ethical to the core. Every action of his will come only after passing through the filter of this kind of a mind, ethical mind. Otherwise, simply a kind of impulsiveness, कुछ करना है करके दिखाना है, that way you can't be a leader. You understand, your inner being should be well organized, and that is why you should know something of this ethics. See, in the yoga system, it is so clear. Let me give you some samples. जो मैंने कहा यम and नियम disciplines. आपको पता है what falls under yam? What are the disciplines that fall under yam? Ahimsa. I don't have to translate, you know what it is. Satya. Ahimsa is non-violence, Satya is truth. Then you have Asteya, which means non-stealing. We may not go out and steal others, but stealing copyright, in so many ways stealing can be done. So avoiding all of that. Then brahmacharya, also certain purity of body and mind. And then aparigraha, non-acceptance of gifts. ये क्यों कहते हैं? You know, you get obligated, you get a feeling of obligation for the person whose gift you take, isn't it? So in order to remove that, so that you remain free and independent, aparigraha is practiced. You will take only what is required and you will return back if you take. इसीलिए तो यज्ञ principle है. So you see, these are basic disciplines. If the mind functions like this, at any given point it will remain clear for you to make your decisions. See, if it does not follow Satya, how will the mind behave? Tell me. You just let anything out of your mouth and the mind will pass it, because it is not committed to Satya. Gradually you lose the distinction between what is true and what is untrue. If this happens, you cannot be a leader. Nobody will follow you. A leader means somebody who is absolute about what he says, 100% true. He believes it himself first, absolutely. So you see, these simple disciplines mean a lot. They make it very clear in Yoga Sutras that if you are not established in this, you cannot take the next step. You cannot do pranayam, you cannot do pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, ये सब later on. पहले इनमें प्रतिष्ठित होना है, यम और नियम में. Then niyam disciplines, you see, first is shaucha, again cleanliness, and then santosha, contentment, always in restless mode, excitability mode, not like that. A contented mind is required, isn't it, for any great pursuit. Then tapas, austerity, ये चीज़ लानी है थोड़ी जीवन में. What does tapasya do? Tell me. हम नहीं कह रहे हैं आप जंगल में चले जाओ तपस्या करने के लिए. यहीं पे in IIT you can do wonderful tapasya. How? Concentration of mind on what you want to achieve is tapasya. तप धातु का मतलब ही है to generate heat. Intense concentration does this for you. So यहीं पे जो तपस्या करनी है, यहीं जहाँ आप हो वहीं पे करना है. You must get rid of the idea yoga is to be done in mountain caves or some ashram. your workplace is your yoga kshetra. You must convert whatever comes to you into yoga. यही आप कर सकते हो, इसलिए try for it. Tapasya is one thing, and then swadhyay, good reading every day, scriptural reading. ये करते हो आप, आपको तो समय ही नहीं मिलता होगा, but you must try to do this. Every day 5-10 minutes of good reading you can do. इससे क्या होता है? The mind gets a good direction, you know. Instead of simply seeing something or going to YouTube and seeing something, get rid of these habits and every day just follow these simple disciplines which they are giving you. Some level of scriptural reading will help you a lot. एक direction देता है life को. Once I had told you, read the lives of great people. There is no inspiration, it's a living inspiration. Then finally is Ishwar Pranidhan, which means surrender to God, a feeling of surrender to the divine. If this is not there, no, only egoism will persist. Me and mine, that's all, that's the world, not at all. So a disposition of surrender towards the divine. So these are the basic disciplines which are, or they make it very clear, these are not disciplines meant only for yogis or meant only for people who are given to spiritual practice or to some ethnic community. These are Sarvabhauma Mahavratam कहते हैं, which means universal great vows, which everybody has to follow if you want to be successful in life. देखिए simple disciplines है, but what do? They recharge your energies, they freshen your mind, and they will give you an inclination towards sustained concentration, and success will follow. So these are the simple ethical excellencies, you can say, in yoga. Next we have in the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, as I told you, it is very clear. Again and again Arjun is sort of told he has to get rid of his mental fever. What is the nature of that fever, you know? Vigata Jwaraha word is used. The fever is delusion, moha, inability to understand his duty at that moment of time. What was Arjun's argument Bhagavad Gita में? आपने पढ़ा होगा? क्या है argument? Very rational argument he is giving. How can I kill my kith and kin? I don't want the kingdom. इसीलिए अर्जुन का विषाद भी एक योग बन जाता है. विषाद भी योग बन सकता है. You see, Arjun Vishad Yoga, it's called, first chapter. So sincerely he felt, I can't do this. I don't want anything out of it. How can I kill my own people? So the Bhagavad Gita worked on him. The thing never came in Duryodhana's mind, you see, or in anybody else's mind. So the thing is, this sincerity, this seriousness should come into our life. That is why then you can absorb the Bhagavad Gita. The simple command given there is, you stand up to your duty. What is your duty to what pertains to your station of life, you do that without thinking of the results, and that duty itself will take you to the highest. So if your duty just now is to kill whoever is in front of you, doesn't matter what relationship he is in, whoever is in front of you, he becomes your enemy, because you are a kshatriya, your duty is that of a soldier, and this is a dharma yudh. You are fighting for a cause, and the cause is very noble. So direct your energies towards your duty. This is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita say you can draw everything. In fact, that is why it is called the essence of the Upanishads. पता है? Bhagavad Gita is called the essence of the Upanishads. Upanishads क्या है? वेदों का सार है. और वेदों का सार है वेदांत उपनिषद. उपनिषद का सार है Bhagavad Gita. It is the very essence of the Upanishads, and it is giving you the all important nature of duty in life. Whatever you identify with, that generates your duty. Only the yogi who can remain completely unidentified has no duties. But as long as you are identified first with your body and mind, then with others, with your job, with your affections, with your relationships, with your family, that brings a lot of duties unto you. Fulfill those duties and you will move forward. You will also be successful here. But if you identify and yet don't fulfill the duty, then आप कहीं के नहीं रहोगे. You cannot progress that way. This is what he is saying. So, you can take the entire ethical system of the Bhagavad Gita, very inspirational literature it is. किसी समय पढ़ लेना Bhagavad Gita. Then there is of course the approach of Vedanta to ethics. You know what actually Vedantic ethics is based upon? It is based upon the Vedantic vision of unity, unity of all existence. देखिए ये आपने कई समय ऐसा होता है हम सोचते हैं इसके बारे में. Is there a kind of all pervading unity in all existence? You see, when you sit calmly during a sunset or a sunrise and your entire mind has become calm, you feel a sense of unity in creation, isn't it? In existence. What they are trying to tell you is, this is not just poetry. Poets may be inspired to visualize that unity, and actually you can deduce a kind of unity through science, but what actually helps you experience that unity is the practice of yoga. You can experience a kind of unity, the unity is in awareness. As bodies we are all different, as minds we are different, but there is a unity when it comes to pure awareness, and it is based on this unity that there is ethics, because Vedanta will tell you, if we are one on the plane of consciousness, then what do you become? You are nothing but me in another form, with another name. I am you in another form with another name. So that is why I should be good to you, that is why you should be good to me. It is not a matter of I ought to be. This is the very nature of things. If you harm somebody, naturally you are harming yourself. If you do good to somebody, naturally you are doing good to yourself. Vivekananda used to say, the universal oneness of the soul is the eternal sanction of all morality. Because the soul, there is only one consciousness manifesting through different bodies and minds. That is why ethics, that is why we should say, what can I do for you? That is why service, because essentially this is the element. There is only oneness in the existence, appearance, there is an appearance of many. The heart of things is oneness. So, Vedantic ethics, if you can call it, it is based on this ontology of the self, the reality of the self. Now, for our purposes, we will bring all this to in a format which we can use. Dekhiye, all this entire ethical theory which we have been studied and the scriptural version of ethics which we have been studied, let us now put it into points which we can use. First of all, when we judge an action, बहुत बार आपके जीवन में ये आएगा, should I do this or should I not do it? One group of people will tell you do it, another group of people are telling you don't do it. How will you decide? You must see whether the action is Shreyaskar or Preyaskar, long term satisfaction or short term pleasure. Make it independent of majority opinion. You understand? It should be your own thinking. A leader means this, relies only on himself first. He doesn't, majority opinion kya hoga, accordingly I will move. A leader can't do that. Otherwise you can't be a leader. Outstanding leaders rely on their buddhi, their intellect. So पहले क्या सोचना है, what will this action do? Will it, ये श्रेयस्कर है या प्रेयस्कर है? Will it bring good or is it just bringing me pleasure? Take your own life situation and see. When there is an exam in front of you, what is the Shreyaskar thing to do? To avoid distraction and apply yourself to studies. No matter what your friends say, what peer pressure is there, no matter what is around you. Isn't it? So, ये पहला principle है which you can draw. I will focus only on that which brings me long term satisfaction and goodness. Commit yourself to this. After this, you must understand the means is very important, as important as the end. See, the first theory, consequentialist theory told you, don't bother about the means. If the end is pleasure or utility, then go ahead. Not so. The means also is important. If the means is wrong, your action will be brought under question. Means is as important as the end. In fact, while working, you are supposed to focus only on the means and the end will come by itself. But अगर सिर्फ like daydreaming, बैठ के सोचते रहो कि at the end this will happen, that will happen, I will get this, you won't get anything. You must perfect the means. In your hand is the means. आप अगर ठीक तरह से with concentration पढ़ोगे, the result is going to come by itself. But if you only keep imagining the result, फिर मुझे यहाँ placement मिलेगा, इस company में job मिलेगा, 6-figure salary मिलेगी, then I will go in a Mercedes. If you keep daydreaming simply, you are only focusing on the end, you have let go on the means, you will not get anything. So, give as much importance to the means as to the end, and at the time of performing the action, the means is all important. You see the lives of leaders, you will see this. They are so serious when they are working. This is very important point. Vivekananda ये बार बार कहते थे. He said, I learned this from a great yogi, pay as much attention to the means as to the end. This is a very important point. The next thing which you should know is, you must understand the seriousness about karma. I told you there are 3 effects of karma. What third effect? What is the third effect? Do you remember? The cosmic effect. That whatever you have put into, whatever force you have released, that is going to come back to you in some way. What you sow, that you are going to reap. Take this law very seriously. Don't think, wow, but you only said that causality is a relative thing. No, no, no. Causality is not relative as long as you are identified with body and mind. This law is of something very firm, something established. So, what does this law basically tell you? It is tracing cause-effect relationship. If you have a bad effect just now, that means you have released a bad cause. Change the cause. If the effect is good, it means the cause has been good. Which means what? If you are continuously radiating goodness, help, service, love, whatever is required for your goals, concentration, sincerity, honesty at work, the fruit of that is going to come back to you. You don't have to worry so much about the fruit. Agar all this you have not observed and you are only imagining that, well, what I want will come to me, that is not going to come. So, take this third law quite seriously. बहुत बार students ask, you see people who are so worthless, they do so well in life sometimes, उनके जीवन में बहुत कुछ आता है, or we people who struggle so much and then we are not able to. See, it depends on that third law. At some point of time, you have sown something which is not working, that is why. Now you can change the whole thing through your will, through your choices. You have in you the ability to make the change, to reverse any situation through your will. We have discussed this earlier. So, understand that this cosmic effect is inevitable, inscrutable in a way, but inevitable, and that is why you must make sure on an everyday basis you radiate the right things, the right bhav, the right thoughts, good emotions, and develop life skills which will make you a natural leader. You understand? Yoga Vedanta aapko kitna, how much you will absorb, I don't know, but basic life skills, truthfulness, honesty, all that we have been discussing. This is very important for success in life. Just like that, success does not come, that inner integrity should be there and people should find you perpetually reliable. Then you will be a natural leader. So, take this law seriously. Suppose somebody has a very negative karmic account, you can atone for it. You can प्रायश्चित जो बोलते हैं ना, प्रायश्चित का क्या मतलब है? पूर्वचित को लाना. Suppose you have done a wrong action, maybe you shouted at your mother, it was not, some impulse came up and you shouted at your mother, बाद में आपको बहुत बुरा लगा. You can do some form of प्रायश्चित. You go and say sorry, you go and do some service for her. पूर्वचित को वापस लाना है, उसी को प्रायश्चित कहते हैं. Bring the good bhav back. So, you can, what I am trying to tell you is, what force you put into motion, you can work on that force. Suppose it is not good enough, and you can bring it back. So, ऐसा disposition, a sunny disposition which will bring positivity into the atmosphere. This ensures your success. कई लोग होते हैं, they are go-getters, very selfish. Don't think a leader, by being like that you can't be a leader. If you become a leader at all, by chance, you will only end up being a kind of a boss who does not get along well with his employees. It is only through character and work efficiency that you can be a real leader, one who is accepted by one and all. So, these small things you must make it part of your life now. Then, in all ethical things, there is this big problem of sin. How does all our scriptures view sin, do you know? There is no concept of sin in Vedanta or yoga. Only divinity is there. In man has original divinity, and adventitious sin, it is superficial, the outer crust, if you do a wrong action. This is what they say. What happens is, wrong action, वो क्या कहते हैं? Yajna, I already told you the meaning of yajna, taking more from life than you deserve is sin. In the Bhagavad Gita, you will find this statement made, one who eats and does not feed others is a sin, is a thief. If you are not contributing to universal life, but only taking from it, gradually you enter sin. This is the concept of sin. So, how do you overcome this? By connecting with universal life, by contributing as much as you can. Never think that what little contributions we make, oh, it is a feel good experience. I stand on a high pedestal and say I did this, I did this. कोई मतलब नहीं है उसका compared to what you have taken from life. Try to think about it and see. There is one very beautiful story in the Mahabharata, let me tell that here, what yajna actually means. देखिए ये story है एक mongoose की. I don't know if you have read in your childhood. This was a popular story once. This it so happened that in a village, actually this mongoose first comes to the place where the Pandavas are conducting a huge sacrifice. उन्होंने राजसूय यज्ञ किया था ना? So he comes there at the moment of the sacrifice, and he sees the number of gifts that are being given, the gold, the silver, the chariots, the horses, and kings and beggars, and everyone is being fed. So many gifts are being given, everyone is happy, everyone is very pleased with the sacrifice, huge sacrifice. All this is going on, and suddenly this mongoose, they notice this mongoose who has half of his body golden and the other half is just like ordinary grey color. And then they ask him, how come sir you are here? And the mongoose says, well, this is no sacrifice. I just came to see, but I don't see this as a great sacrifice. Then they say, this is the biggest sacrifice in India, in Bharatvarsha of that time. It's a huge Rajasuya Yajna, and so many lakhs and lakhs of people are benefited by this. Poor people are being fed day and night, but you say it's no sacrifice. He says no. Then why do you say this? Then he tells his story. He says, you see, some time back I went to a village. I entered a village, and in that place at that time there was a famine, a 3-year famine raging. So everybody was starving, and a number of people were actually they had been killed by the famine. And I entered a particular home which had the father and mother, the son was there, and the son's wife was there, daughter-in-law was there. So this small household I entered, I saw that day only these people, or 4 people also, were starving, and they were reduced to skin and bones. And then I saw suddenly a guest came into, one day the Brahmin somehow got a little barley flour out of begging, just by chance. Every day he would not get it, but he got that, and they roasted that barley and divided it to 4 portions, and as they just sat down to eat, a guest knocked at the door. And this man said, I am dying of hunger, in this village there is no, and in those times, you know, Atithi Devo Bhava kehte the na? This was the norm. Any guest coming in, he should be served first. So these people, they welcomed the guest, they made him sit, and the eldest of the family, the father, he offered his portion of that barley flour to him. Now that man was so hungry, he just gulped it down and he said, this is an appetizer. Now I am all the more hungry, so please give me something more. So then his wife also gave her portion. Said, I am hungry. So the son gave his portion because he said, well, my father's dharma is my dharma. If my father has given, I should also give. And then his wife gave her portion also because she said, my husband's dharma is my dharma, so I will also give. And the guest took all of that, and that night the guest rested, but these 4 people died. This mongoose is telling this story in the yajna to the Pandavas. Then the mongoose said, there was during that time a little barley flour had fallen on the ground. I rolled in that flour and one half of my body became golden. And then since then I came out of the house, I understood these 4 people have died. I didn't stay there, but since then I have been searching for another such great sacrifice from which my other half body also will become golden. But I have not found. I came to your yajna and I thought here at least it will become, but it has not become, because they sacrificed to the point of their lives. So this is the story of the golden mongoose, which means what? Sacrifice has been held as the law of life. ऐसी बात नहीं है. It's a matter of choice. You can do or not. You have taken from life, you have to replenish. You have to give back into that cycle. You see in nature, everything is cyclic. आप study करते हो ना, Krebs cycle, nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle. Isn't everything in a cyclic form? Is anything just tangential, radial? It's all cyclic. Which means what? Nature itself functions like this. What you take, you have to return back. Because the trees are doing what they are doing, we are able to breathe. Isn't it? Everything in nature is like this. So if I hold back and say, no, ये मेरा प्राप्य है, मैं किसी को नहीं दूंगा, I become a thief. So understand, this is the general nature of life. What they are calling yajna, ये कोई special ritual नहीं है. They are only doing it to reinforce the idea of give and take in our life. Because I am taking, I have to give. So this is the concept of sin in Hindu ethics. Then let me go to the next point. See, I told you our scriptures held duty to be above everything. Today there is something called an ethical hacker. आपने सुना है word? Ethical hacking. It's actually you can earn lakhs by being an ethical hacker. For those of you who like to crack passwords and the social networking sites of your friends, and who are good at coding and in programming languages, you can take up this job, because huge companies, some are laughing. अच्छा लगता है ना ये सब करना? Instead of doing it to your friends' sites, you can put your brain cells to good use. By becoming an ethical hacker, huge companies are wanting ethical hackers for security purposes. So you see, hacking is very bad, but ethical hacking, you are doing it in order to provide security to the company's accounts. So you are getting paid for it. What I am telling you is, more than the job you do, the intent behind the job decides the rightness or wrongness of an action. If the intention is pure, intention is good, you know, the work you are doing, if it is going to benefit a great many people, the action is justified. This is the message you must catch from all these ethical theories. इसीलिए कहते हैं duty is above everything else. The duty of an ethical hacker is to hack, and that is justified. Duty rises above everything else. In any given context, situation, you must think, what is the right duty for me in this context? What I ought to do in this context, not what will I get out of it. If you start thinking what will I get out of it, well, your action will not be right. Please see this. आप अपने ही context में जब हमारा practicals होता है ना, we can put this to practical test and see. We will try to arrange the practical like that. Any given situation, you must pause and think, is this the right duty in this context? Then you will see your action is, there is no tinge in that action, it is perfect. Then one more point which I would like to give you here is, what is it that fulfills a law? See, I have been telling you a number of laws. Remember, love fulfills every law. Not that the law is final. There is something above law. You look at your mothers in your home. Do they ever tell you, हम कितना कर्मयोग कर रहे हैं? कभी कहते हैं? मम्मी कभी कहती है? I did this and this for you right from morning. Her fulfillment is in doing things for you because she looks upon you as an extension of herself. है ना? माँ की आँखों में the child is an extension of herself. So she is doing it for herself. She feels it like that. इसलिए वो कभी claim नहीं करती मैंने आपके लिए ये किया है. कोई माँ ऐसा नहीं कहेगी. So that is why love fulfills the law. Wherever there is a law, there is something above that. If you can develop, Vivekananda ये कहते थे, duty is seldom sweet. You must be dutiful. So long we have been discussing deontological ethics. You must be dutiful, but there is something above duty. If you add love, you are like adding oil to the wheels. You know, you are lubricating the wheels. All the more easy it will be for you to work for others. You must be able to do this. A loving attitude of service, and you can do everything. Whether you know ethical theories or not, this attitude itself will fulfill the law of karma. बहुत सुंदर सुंदर घटनाएं. See, your mother, as I told you, she is a multitasker in so many ways without laying any claim to karma yoga. A classic example right in front of your eyes. I remember one story, you know, it is the story of a monk who was climbing up a hill in the Himalayas. He was climbing up a hill and he saw one Pahadi boy, one boy from the hills. He was also climbing up, but with a little bundle on his back. That boy was very small, 5 years or something like that, and huffing and puffing up, and that bundle on his back had a tuft of hair, which means that was a baby. His mother had tied his little sister, 2 years old or something, to his back. Because pahadon mein wo karte hain. If she gave it in his hands, he may drop her. So she had tied it to his back, the baby. And this boy was with great strain, he was climbing up the same slope of the hill. So as soon as this monk saw this, he understood that the little baby is on the back and this fellow is struggling. So he went close to the child and said, can I carry your little burden for you? Immediately the boy said, burden? How dare you? She is my sister. See, what I am trying to tell you is, if this kind of where love comes in, you are prepared to carry any burden. It does not appear, in fact it is an insult to call it a burden, isn't it? You see, I know sadhus like this. If you show the least sympathy for the great hard work they are doing, they will feel insulted by it. इतनी nobility है उनमें, क्योंकि they consider it has to be done. It's an expression of my love. आप अगर आपकी मम्मी को कहोगे कि माँ इतना मत करना, आपकी मम्मी को गुस्सा आएगा, है ना? She has to do it because that is the way for her to fulfill her motherhood. So love fulfills every law. Please see this. There is something far above duty. If you want your duty to fulfill you, if you want your actions to bring this blessing into your life, you must add the power of love. This is the final thing we should know about action. Action sirf karma theory, it's not just karma theory. Action should be spontaneous. I told you, the more you work, the more it should fulfill you. If it is not giving you that inner joy, that inner satisfaction, there is something wrong in our karma yoga. Every action is an event for fulfillment. It should give satisfaction. इसीलिए ये कोई willful something which you are doing out of a good compulsion, It's nothing like that. It's a spontaneous act of service. And so if you add in a loving philosophy, whatever you may say, just add in a little bit of love and duty is very sweet. So with this we come to an end of the theory of ethics, which is important for us to judge actions. Now we will go into one point about causation, which we have missed out, but which is important for you to know. See, Vivekananda used to always say, he used to give a illustration. You just think of a huge locomotive moving along rails, and it's emblematic of engineering ingenuity and power, isn't it? And consider before that huge mighty locomotive, a bullet train, let's say, going at such enormous speeds, and in front of that is a little worm. Now, who do you think has more power? You will say bullet train. But you know that bullet train can only go along the tracks. This worm can decide whether it wants to be on the track or outside. This worm can move according to its choice, its will, because it is a self-aware entity, while your bullet train cannot do that. As it is programmed, it will move. Only along the tracks it can move. So what is the point in saying this? It means the divide between the living and the non-living is this, that there is choice and freedom in the living because of awareness, because of the presence of awareness. You know, in Vedantic terms, how we look upon will, it is a dynamic aspect of self. Just like how consciousness is the static aspect of self, will is the dynamic aspect of self. Because you have a will, you can make your choices. Because you make your choices, you are free. Freedom and choice is a distinct feature of the living. Non-living doesn't have that. And that is why the worm is greater than the bullet train. समझ में आ रहा है? Huh? So please try to understand, by the power of your will and choice, you can do anything in your life. This causation theory, huge theory we will give you. But you must remember, at any point, you know, a man can defy all laws and do something unexpected based on his will and choice. This is the power given to us. I told you, one link in the chain of causation is in your hands. How you exercise it, that will decide what you do with the chain and how far the chain will take you, will evolve you. So once you have understood this, you see, anything else, your smartphone, recently somebody was telling me, you know, your smartphone does such a enormous work for you, you can't do without it, isn't it? Indispensable ho gaya hai aajkal. What does, somebody was telling me recently, you know, pehle kehte the praan jaye par vachan na jaye, aajkal kehte hai praan jaye par mobile na jaye. They don't want, it's a big huge thing, people go into depression if they lose their mobile, long-term depression. So we have become so dependent on an instrument which itself functions on programming. It has no will of its own. As it is programmed, it will function like that. We have become totally dependent on this. But it can only function in a formulaic manner, isn't it? But you function according to, I want you to understand the glory of the human birth. You function according to your will through your freedom. No machine can do that. No gadget can do that. And that is why to exercise your will in the right direction, that is the prerogative, the glory of the human life. Especially youth is the time when you take your life into your hands. It will go in the direction I want it to go. Through my will, I will generate my future. You should be able to say this. And forget about astrologers and destiny and fate and all this. This assertion on your part, Vivekananda very much wanted. This is the period of your life when you feel you can do it, you can do anything. So you must do it and show by exercising your will. This is the purpose of causation theory. You know, by tracing causation, they are empowering you. Please see this. Empowering you to take your life into your hands. Now, I want to show you the limits of causation according to Vedanta. ये किस लिए important है? See this great argument between determinism and free will. I don't know if you understood the significance of it after our discussion on it. The significance is this: determinism. You know, in science also, Einstein was a determinist. He said everything is predetermined. God does not play dice. He said this, you remember? But Michio Kaku says God does play dice. After the coming of quantum physics, actually, quantum physics discoveries, you take any of the laws of quantum mechanics, you will see there is uncertainty, there is improbability, all these have naturally come in. Which means what? How can you say deterministic model alone is true? Even at the quantum level, there appears to be some kind of a will and a choice by which things can go as unpredictable as ever. So, this debate continues in science and philosophy, in anywhere where there is depth, there will come the problem of will and to what extent is choice free. Now, Vedanta throws a very important insight here, which I want to cover just now. What exactly are we trying to do? We are trying to see the limits of causation through the eyes of Vedanta. अब causation theory के 3 points है. क्या है? I am going a little abstract, but you must be able to catch it. The 3 points are: for every effect there must be a cause, right? Effect itself presupposes a cause, then effect is dependent on the cause, and if you remove cause, you remove the effect. This is causation basically. Now you see, the second point which we made here was the effect depends upon the cause. Effect is there only because of cause. Without cause there cannot be effect. If I say this table is the effect, what is the cause for the table? Wood. Wood is the cause, the effect is table. With respect to the effect, the table, wood is the cause. Now I can bring down this table, I will still have wood, I can convert it into something else, I can make it a chair. I can make it into something else, I can use it for an almirah. So, cause remains over, it is a law which is asymmetric, please see. If I remove effect, still cause will remain over, but if I remove cause, effect does not remain over, which means what? If effect depends only on the cause for its survival, then this is what Vedanta will call, it is less real than the cause, it is unreal, it is mithya, it is a kind of appearance in the cause. And with respect to this cause, you had the effect, which means what? If I bring the effect down, wood will remain over but not as cause, it is just wood. So, what is the point in arguing like this? What is the meaning of this? Causality is not final, it is not the ultimate thing. Reality, philosophically, you know how this is applied, reality is always there as it is. Consciousness, Brahman is the reality. The world of name and form is an appearance in it. Why they say this is, you see this very table which you are seeing just now, it is nothing but name, form and function superimposed on wood. Are you getting the point? Is there something separate called table apart from wood? ये point catch करो थोड़ा. You will be catching an important Vedantic point. When I am saying table, the picture of this is in your mind. I will repeat it, you hear it carefully. This is table itself means name, form, this form, name of table and the function of a table superimposed on wood. If I remove wood, will table be there? Something called table? Table cannot be there. So, it is nothing but name, form, function given to wood. The reality about this table is wood. So, there is actually nothing called table. It is an appearance of wood. Thick? So also, cause, effect is an appearance in cause, always. So, if you want, you can have only the cause. If you bring down the table, you will have the cause remains over, but not causality, because cause was cause with respect to effect. This is Vedantic way of saying causality is a relative something. It's a relative law, it works as long as you are identified with this body and mind. And 99.9% of 99% of mankind is identified with body and mind. So, you must take karma theory seriously. But there, if you transcend this body mind complex through samadhi, through spiritual discipline, you can go above causality. यही कहने का मतलब है. If you do not take karma theory seriously, you know what will happen? Very superficial solutions to problems. In fact, all psychosis, neurosis, these mental problems, mental ailments, depression is due to ignorance of karmic effects. Are you understanding that today when children have to be told, you have to take care of your parents, I really feel terrible. Shouldn't this come out naturally from us? For people who have given 20-25 years of their life only to serving you, to making you what you are today, should you be told that you have to repay to them, you have to take care of them in old age? It's an insult to humankind to have to say it. So, understand, this is what is called karmic debt. If you ignore this, you will be in serious trouble. In fact, depression, these neurosis, all these kinds of problems, over anxiety disorders, all these problems come because people are not serious about their karma. You have not been a contributor in life, then you will definitely go into depression. And you can have all kinds of treatments for that depression. You know the current treatment, you have heard of TMS experiments? Transcranial magnetic stimulation. एक picture है यहाँ पर उसका. Let me show you that picture. You see, this is transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is supposed to be a treatment, modern treatment for depression. What they are actually doing is just focus your eyes on that image. It is a non-invasive procedure that uses magnetic fields to stimulate nerve cells in the brain to improve symptoms of depression. TMS is typically used when other depression treatments have been ineffective. A TMS kit is essentially a portable, powerful electromagnet called a coil. Switching on the coil causes it to emit a magnetic pulse, and this magnetic field is strong enough to evoke electrical activity in the brain. And through this they are trying to bring in good mood, change mood rather, and remove depression. And try to see this, it is purely symptomatic. When symptoms of depression are there, they will apply the coil. Once you remove the coil, the same old sanskars are going to come in. Like for example, if you have a muscle spasm anywhere in the body, they give you IFT, IFT rays. Temporarily it works, but the exercise, if you keep exercising the muscle, then only it will get the strength to remove that pain completely. If this good exercise is not there, you are just sort of stimulating the muscle temporarily. So also any kind of a treatment for all these kind of mental disorders, symptoms, you must go to the core cause. If there is dishonesty there, then well, these are all symptomatic treatments, you can say. They will just temporarily remove the symptoms, but you have not removed the cause. What is the cause for all this? You have contracted yourself. जो आपको देना था जीवन में, आपने वो नहीं दिया है. Mind has contracted. That is why in our culture ये पंच महायज्ञ होते थे. आपको पता है? Even now if you go to the village side, you will find people doing this pancha mahayagnas, which means what? You have a certain debt towards your ancestors, you have a certain debt towards gods, you have a certain debt to your family, the members of your family, you have a debt towards nature, you have a debt towards animals. All of these have enriched your life. What have you given back? This is something you must think about. If you are not for that giving back, then the mind will contract in some way. No matter what kit you use, it is difficult to get rid of these kinds of problems unless the mind learns to expand, and expansion comes by joyfully giving. आप खुद ही देखो ना, आप एक you do this experiment in your practicals. You eat an ice cream cone, see the joy you feel in your mind. Go out here, number of small boys, they are destitute and constantly begging and all that. You give an ice cream cone to one fellow and watch the joy on his face, and then watch the state of your mind. You will understand what I am trying to say. आप जितना दोगे उतना your mind will remain happy and expanded. This is the natural law of life. Because we don't understand this law, basically this is basic yajna law. If you don't understand this law, you will only rely on synthetic enjoyments. Something is required to make tingle a little enjoyment in my mind. These kind of joys lead to depression gradually. But expansive states of mind naturally lead to great happiness. It is an unasked for happiness. You see, you are helping somebody somewhere, but a shaft of bliss will enter your heart. Pata nahi kyun, why you are just happy. You know, I have seen people who are just happy by themselves. Unhe kuch bhi nahi lagta. Like little children. Always joyful. They don't need anything to be joyful, you know. Their vital energy is functioning in such a way, always bubbling up with joy. Mind is so clear. No negativities. Simple things, you see, but it matters a lot in your life. So don't rely on, like we tell you, synthetic food, don't rely on synthetic joys. You must be able to generate it in your system by yourself, by becoming a giver, a contributor. And if these habits are there in your mind, you will easily overcome negativities like stress. Stress also is due to this. आपको पता है, too much karmic debt and you go into stress because your mind is not able to take it anymore. This is a simple reason. You are not in charge of your body and mind is not able to take the karmic debt anymore. And you will go into this sad moods, bad moods what are called. So there is a way to correct all this. These days, many types of thinking we have generated purely based on logic and rationalizing everything, and to a certain extent we are ignoring these noble good emotions, due to which also there are symptoms of depression everywhere, isn't it? देखिए, जब भी आप serve करते हो किसी को, naturally a bond is created with the other person, isn't it? It's a beautiful emotion that you have generated. It will give you satisfaction. If this element of service is not there in your life, you lose that bond, you lose that beautiful bhav, emotion which could have come into your life. एक बार महाभारत में कृष्ण दुर्योधन को कह रहे हैं, all your problems are due to lack of service. You never served anybody, so you have become Duryodhan. So थोड़ा देना सीखना है on an everyday basis. Not that you will do great works later on, but let this attitude of giving become constant with us. Everyday basis, some contribution somewhere, because we are taking that much from life. And many of these wrong ways of thinking, there are people who believe in, this is called reducing human experience all to neurochemistry, which means my happiness is due to dopamine release only, and it is due to serotonin. Many of us are like that. Neurophysiology has taught us that these chemicals are responsible for your happiness. So then the logical conclusion will be, if you inject these chemicals, you should be happy. Is it so? Happiness arises from what? एक shot dopamine ले लिया, do you think it will cure your depression and keep you always happy? Will it? Think and see what actually makes you happy. They are the physiological correlates of a state of your mind. You can generate the state of that mind without any synthetic aid. Why do you give up on this? Experience is always in the first person. If that first person is right, erect, your experiences will be beautiful. Why should you rely on all this? Drugs or some constant entertainment required in order to keep me peaceful. This is not called peace. So, थोड़ा ये सब ठीक कर लो. Over exposures of the multimedia age, a kind of inundation of disjointed, overlapping information, which is not even required. I told you, focus के लिए, actually you have to be in focus mode. So, correct all this now. Overexposures to multimedia, not required when, especially at this time. Then there is epigenetics, you have heard of it? See, these are all wrong ways of thinking which we pick up and we try to justify with science. Science is a great field, it is going to bring a lot of blessing into your life, but you can misinterpret some things in science. You know, epigenetics, putting the blame for everything on your genes. This is also a current way of thinking. Something is wrong with my brain, the usual thing is my emotions are not in my hands. So, I will lay the blame on my genes. Some genetic problem is there which came to me from my parents. I am not responsible, so I am not able to control my anger. You know what is etched on your genes is based upon the convolutions of your brain, which is based upon the thoughts of your mind. Ultimately, it is your mind which is closest to you, isn't it? You are working through your mind. If you form the right habits, the right ways of thinking now and make them very solid, all this will naturally follow, the correction will naturally follow. और ये चीज़ें अगर हम ना ठीक करें, I never worked on my mind or on this system, but constantly I want an injection to keep me happy, or I want drugs, or I need films to keep me happy. You will one day you will go into very deep depression, because the human mechanism is not made to be all outward bound. अपने आप में शांति से, कंटेंटमेंट से, आनंद से रहना सीखना चाहिए. Then you apply that system to anything, you will be successful. यही तो योग है ना. अपने ऊपर कुछ काम ही नहीं किया. I can't. Many people actually say this after a certain age. I can't bear my mind. Or they will say, my hormones are responsible for all my oddities. Or they will say, my friends, I am very innocent. The simple problem is you have not worked on your mechanism. So, you are not getting anything out of life. So, the purpose of all our study is to make you stand up and build your life, है ना? Through karma, through what you are doing, not by running away from what you are doing. Through what you are doing, convert it into a yoga and use it for your evolution. Better understanding, more happiness, more fulfillment through serving others, giving life for others. Time is up, we will stop here.